I also have a commerce background, but went more deeper into the spiritual part, spiritual life, and very happy that we are having this session today as a part of the self-awareness program that you generally conduct. So the topic given is handling success and overcoming failure. It's a very interesting topic because, as Ashita said in the introduction also, that with hard work, dedication, one gets to success. And so the topic is not how to become successful. Topic is you are all already successful. So my congratulations to all of you. The topic is how to handle success and then overcome failures. Obviously, there will be challenges and failures that do come in our life. And so how to handle that? Let us see. That will be our topic for today. And I'm just going to share a presentation here. Yes. So Swami Chinmayanand ji used to say that success is a tribute that life pays to excellence. When there is excellence that we pursue, success is a natural byproduct of that. And a person who values excellence definitely would achieve success also. Generally, when we chase success, we compromise with excellence. But when we pursue excellence, success would naturally follow. And so, as you all are already successful, how to handle success? Because the observation sometimes in life is one definitely has to struggle, or one has done great amount of hard work, one has come to a certain level of success, and one feels good about it also. But after reaching at a certain point, there are many other questions that come up. Sometimes success can get into the head. Sometimes one stagnates. Sometimes one suddenly starts questioning what next. Sometimes there is that directionlessness. So there are many possibilities that can come. So 5 factors very important are that first aspect is the pursuit of excellence one should continue. It is not that through excellence one has achieved success and then one can stop, because one still strives higher. Then pursuit of excellence has to continue. In spiritual life, in fact, there is no stagnation. One doesn't say that one has to stop. One continues. And spiritual life doesn't say don't achieve prosperity also. The Vedic masters say kushalat na pramaditavyam. Do not postpone your success. Bhutye na pramaditavyam. Don't postpone your glory and fame. So one can strive, but anchored in the certain vision of excellence. And so these 5 factors are important aspects. One is, am I growing holistically? That is something that one should ask oneself. When one becomes successful, the path to success, if it is holistic, where I'm growing in all aspects of life, then that is wonderful. Like there is personal life, there is family life, there is social life, then there is the professional life, the financial life. Like that, there are various aspects to our life. Am I growing holistically in all of them? Even as an individual, am I growing at all different levels? In art, there is a form of art called caricature, in which the head will be very big and the body will be very small. So sometimes it happens that when we pursue success, there is a certain focus that is required, and a certain time of our life goes only in pursuing one area of our life. Let us say professional success. Today a lot of people complain that we don't get quality time from our spouse or from our family members. Why? Because the work pressure is so much, or the timelines are very difficult to meet. There are different challenges why a person is not able to spend that much quality time, especially suppose the children are growing up, they want our time, but sometimes the professional demands are so much that we are not able to give enough time or do justice to the time that they may require. So it may happen that at some point in time we may have not been able to balance, but once one has become successful, one should definitely focus that am I growing holistically in different areas. Second aspect is, am I enjoying this process? There may be stress there on the way, there is no doubt about that, but does that stress overwhelm me more than the process that I enjoy? Because the journey must be enjoyable. Suppose I ask you, is success the destination? Suppose I say that is happiness a destination or a journey? What would you say? You can type in the chat. Journey. Okay. Is it journey? Fine. Will you go on a journey which has no destination? Success is both the journey also and the destination also. Should be journey, but we forget that. Yes, many times that happens. Destination is bliss. Correct. Ultimate happiness and success can go together. So destination we may say is bliss. Success is the journey. Happiness is the journey. So when we want to achieve something, the destination is important and the enjoyment of the journey also is very important. Many times in the chase for success, we forget the joy of the journey. So as I'm achieving success, can I enjoy the journey more and more? And how does one enjoy the journey? By understanding, by reminding oneself of what is the difference that I am making to my life, to people's life. You know, what is the higher vision? That is the third point. When I understand the higher vision and that attitude comes to me, that every step, no matter how difficult it may be, stressful it may be, but I know the difference it is making. I know the potential in me that is manifesting. So if I remember that, I will enjoy the journey. And if it is something that I love to do, like what they say today, do what you love and love what you do, then definitely I will enjoy the journey. If I am not in the profession which is according to my calling, for me it's just a job, or for me it's just a career, growth, then I may not enjoy it as much. But if it is my calling, then I will definitely enjoy. So handling success is one way is important, that we learn to enjoy the journey more and more, because the destination is not something far away. Because why do we want success? We want success because it makes us feel happy. I read a PJ somewhere, that the inventor of the matchstick was very happy. Why? Because it was a striking success. So success makes us feel happy. And many times we forget that. So we achieve a certain success and then our goal is to achieve some higher success, and then again we are striving for that. But in the process, we have forgotten to enjoy that success, enjoy the journey. So personal holistic growth, enjoying the process, achieving the goal with a higher vision. And what is the service that is happening to the society through me? It may be to even one individual, it may be to a group, it may be to the whole country. In a conscious way, all of us have the need to feel this, that I am making a difference, and it makes us feel good, because that is the selfless part of our personality. The more selfless we are, the more happy we are. the more peaceful the mind is. In the Gita, second chapter, Bhagavan says that Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajaayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate. The mind and intellect become very peaceful, happy. Agitations get, they get destroyed. So the more selfless we are, the more we will experience this state. And the whole third chapter of the Gita is Karma Yoga, which speaks more and more about it. How to make action a means of our spiritual evolution and experience peace and happiness on the journey. And hence the fifth factor is happiness or joy, whatever one calls it. That is that success making me happy and making others happy. Sometimes we achieve success, but it may not make us happy and others happy. It can have disastrous consequences. Like if I take an example from Ramayana, or Ravan was successful in kidnapping Mother Sita, and Jatayu was not successful in stopping Ravan. But Jatayu's failure is greater than Ravan's success, because Ravan's success led to finally destruction of the entire dynasty of Ravan. So many of them got killed, and Lanka got destroyed. Finally, Vibhishan was made the king. But what success is that when Ravan lost all his sons, his brothers? What kind of success is that? So sometimes when we achieve success, at what price are we achieving that success? Is that success even empowering? Is that success making us happy and it can make others happy? That is very important. Ravan, many people today think he was a very great person. He was greater, and he was a great scholar. He was devotee of Shiva, and he was a great king. And they think that we have never seen Ramayana from Ravan's perspective. As a fiction, one can imagine those things, but if actually one starts analyzing, Ravan was a terrible leader, if you see from management standpoint. For his personal desire and vendetta, he wanted, instigated by Shurpankha, he did not listen to all the good advice that was being given to him by Vibhishan, even by Kumbhakarna, even by his forefathers, and even by his wife. He put aside everything and he sacrificed and he destroyed everybody just for his personal desire. How is he a good king? So many times we have to understand that what is the success that I'm pursuing? Is it a righteous goal, and is the means righteous? In commerce today, that so much of success one can get, and many scams also have happened. So much of insider trading and whatnot keeps happening. And how many people's lives become difficult because of few people's selfishness. And at some point in time, they appear to be great, successful, and everybody is praising them. But the means that one has adopted are so terrible that at some point one falls, and then one has to run as a fugitive, and then the lives of people, their karma also they are having. So a lot of those things one has to understand clearly, and then see to it that these 5 factors, when we are able to have, then that success is a holistic success, and that success is empowering success. It should not be disempowering and destructive. Today, so much we are talking about carbon footprint and ecology and saving the environment and reducing the carbon footprint. Why? Because in the chase for our success, we have destroyed the environment also. And that's why holistic success is important. So these are 5 different factors about success. Now, one beautiful teaching of the Gita is applicable both for success and failure. This comes in the 56th verse of 2nd chapter, which is called Sthita Prajna Lakshan, and that is equanimity. Dukkheshu anudvignamanaha sukheshu vigata sprahaha. One who is unattached to success and unaffected by failures. Sukha and dukkha are the results of success and failure. In this context, we are adapting this. So equanimity is very important. Many times people feel that equanimity is going to make our life boring. If I'm equanimous, then even if I become successful, I'm like, okay, I'm successful. I don't celebrate, I don't feel excited, I don't feel the joy. And even if failure comes, okay, I got failure. It's fine. Let me be balanced, all the time balanced. It doesn't mean that. Equanimity is an inner state of mind, doesn't prevent us from enjoying or celebrating or even feeling some sadness that failure comes. What is important is not to get overwhelmed by the pairs of opposites and lose one's sense of objectivity. Like when one becomes successful, ego rises. One feels powerful. One feels I can get away with anything. All those things are what is meant when it is said unattached to success. One doesn't allow success to get into the head. One enjoys, one celebrates, one is happy. There's no problem with that. And failure, one doesn't give up completely or doesn't get so dejected and then one feels the whole life is useless and one attempts. How many young people today do that? Into drugs, into depression, into attempts for suicide. Why? Because one doesn't know how to handle that disappointment. So unattached to success and unaffected by failure. Anudvigna manaha. It is said the mind is not agitated so much that one forgets objectivity. Even a wise person would feel happy and would feel sad, but they are not overwhelmed by them. So when we become successful, we should not lose our equanimity. That is one of the most important teachings of the Gita. And this similar one comes again in the second chapter. In the beginning, it has come in the 14th verse, where it is said beautifully that when we contact the world, various experiences will come in the pairs of opposites: heat and cold, pleasure and pain, success and failure. All those will come. But what is important is to understand they are temporary. They come and they go. Agamaha apayinaha. They come and they go. Just bear with them. Whoever does this, that person is qualified for greater success. The next shloka of that says that. Saha amritatvaya kalpate. That person is able to achieve even immortality. So equanimity is not a dull state. Equanimity is a very balanced state where one can take objective decisions, one is not overwhelmed by emotions, and one is more rational, grounded. That is a state of equanimity. It is not a dull and boring state. So here is a very beautiful video of Swami Chindananji on this verse, the second chapter, 14th verse.
To Kaunteya, hey Kunti ka bete, son of Kunti. This is only because of your contact, the right contact with the world outside, nothing wrong. In wrong context that you get entangled with the world outside. Shitoshna sukha dukkhada, all your experiences of heat and cold, Shitoshna, sukha dukkha, joy and sorrow are all in the way you contact the world. There are some people, a little hot, and you open the window. And a little cold, close the window. You go on hymning and Shitoshna sukha dukkha, or joy and sorrow, success and failure, loss and gain, is all by your contact with it, that these various experiences. And then what am I to do then? I am here in this world. Agama payino anitya. These are all agama pai. They come and go. One moment hot, another moment cold. If you go on complaining, you can continue. A little. Today Swamiji is very windy. Oh, very cold. And the day before yesterday was saying that it's very hot. Summer has come, I think. Half an hour, that's all. Now today, just the opposite. Something very cold outside. Breeze is there. Heated cold. And you really speaking, if you keep your ears open, it's wonderful to hear that. That one man, rain. No rain at all, Swamiji, no rain at all. And I let there be rain for 3 days. Swamiji, rain or rain? Anything you are complaining. My people, my father and mother, they don't care for me, All right, father and mother have landed. Swamiji, they have landed, they are not going. They are not going. That is a complaint. If the wife smiled, I don't know why she is smiling so much. 6 inches smile, why should he? I think she is grinning at me. Now she doesn't smile. It's all very tragic. She is not smiling at all. She must smile exactly the size that you expect her to do it. Naturally, you are never happy. Because she is an independent lady. She has got her own ways of smiling. You should have asked her before marriage that in a smile, let me see. No, that is not the right kind of smile. You understand? You give it up. All your own mental projections. Agama vayuno anitya, they are impermanent. They are never the same. They are agama vayu. They come and go. Tam titikshasva bharata. When they come to you, joys and sorrows, success and failure, them titikshasva, suffer silently. Don't get perturbed by them. Why? By the time you say that I am sick, you have to say that now I am all right. Last 2 days, you are sick, very sick and all that. So the third day I meet you and say, hey, how are you now? Why? I am all right. Hey, but you are very sick. Oh, that was last week. Now I am all right. But last week he was dying. And this week he is planning the next marriage. Haven't you in your life also watched? In your own silent heart have you watched your friend crying and you went there for bereavement because his wife died? You went, you also wept, he also wept. Third week, you get an invitation card. My marriage, please come. When you go there, you don't know whether to weep or to smile. So you do both together. That fellow's forgotten. Agama, he comes and goes. And he tries to give you an explanation that, it is not that I want to marry, but then the 2, 3 children, small children, to look after them. This is the best babysitter available. It's very laughable if you keep on watching how people move from one to the other. These are not to be, should not waste your time in running up and down. When joy comes, you go beyond the clouds. When sorrow comes, you come trashed down. No, keep your balance. Let them come and go. But every one of us will be ups and downs. If a piece of wood is in the sea will have always the waves, and the wood is, floating on the waters. Naturally, that wood will have to go up and down according to the rhythm of the waves. Isn't it? But the same waves, or in the same waves, is standing the lighthouse at the harbor. The waves come and break themselves at the feet of the lighthouse, but the lighthouse is not going up and down. Why? Lighthouse is not floating on the surface, but it is built on the foundation of the rocks down below. Therefore, the light illumines the waves. The waves come and clash and die away. But the lighthouse stands steady. May you all learn to live like a lighthouse. in the tumultuous changes of situations and circumstances and the world of change and tossing situations in the world, learn to keep your balance. How? By building your life on firm foundations. But all of us are only floating in life. A little happiness, the mind, and next moment, and gone up and down. Agama, Vaino, Nitya, these are all impermanent. They come and go. No joy can permanently stay with you. No sorrow can permanently stay with you. Then what am I to do? Silently suffer them. With dignity. With silent dignity, suffer them. Because you know they are not going to be permanent. They will go away. Agama Vaino Nitya Tam Titikshasva Bharata. Hey Bharata Kulotama, Tam Titikshasva. Suffer them silently with dignity and patience. They will not be permanent. And enjoy yourself, the life. And do achieve what you want to achieve in life without getting knocked down by all these different experiences that come and go.
So how Gurudev said that we should be like the lighthouse, built on the firm foundation. What is that firm foundation? That firm foundation is equanimity, study, inner strength, selflessness. Those are all the strong foundations, spiritual practices. Then ups and downs will happen in life because nobody can stop that, but we will be rooted. And that becomes the foundation for greater success also. So this equanimity is a very important quality to cultivate as we go along pursuit of success and as we become successful also. Then in the 3rd chapter of the Gita, it is said that the success is the result of the teamwork. Not only the teamwork with the people whom I am working, but it is the teamwork of the whole universe. Our very existence is possible because the entire universe contributes to it. The air we are breathing, the food we are eating, the water we are drinking, the space in which we are, the earth on which we are walking, the plants, birds, animals, human beings, everyone contributes to our existence. So our success is never isolated, or it is never a success which is only because of me or because of a few people. It is because of the whole universe. And hence in the Gita, Bhagavan says this beautifully in the 3rd chapter, that one who enjoys this success without sharing it with others, and when should one share it? Before one enjoys it. So one who enjoys the success before sharing it with others, that person is called as a thief. Tair dattana pradayebhyah yo bhungte stena eva saha. That's the line. Generally, we enjoy first and then we share the balance. But the Gita says first share, because that's an expression of gratitude. And so give back. Give back to the society in whatever way possible, then enjoy. Don't enjoy first and then whatever is remaining, then give that to the people or share that credit. No. A good leader, you will always see, will praise others, appreciate others, share the success, share the benefits that one gets before one enjoys it oneself. That's an expression of gratitude, and that's an expression of the sensitivity we have, that so many people and so many beings have contributed to my success. So we have to give back to our team, we have to give back to nature, and that's why today so much of CSR, etc. We must ensure that we plow it back to the country, to the whole environment, to our community, to the team. Share with everyone. And so one who shares the success, gives back to the society, and then enjoys, यज्ञशिष्टामृत भुजः यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनम. Yajnashishtashinas Santah Muchyante Sarva Kilbishaihi. These are various shlokas in the Gita. And they may be written in Sanskrit, but the thoughts that they have, we are seeing being applied even in the world today. And when we have not been applying, that's the reason why we have created so much of imbalance and destruction in the ecology, etc. So that's why he says here that those who share first means their mind is so much more aware, much more grateful, much more sensitive. These are beautiful qualities to have when one has become successful, and it will set good examples for people also. Initially, what happens is we want success for our self-actualization, our potential should manifest, we feel good, we feel a sense of achievement. So we do it for ourselves, but slowly we must expand. And from working for ourselves, we start working for a greater purpose. That is a beautiful transition that happens. Again, as I said, there's nothing wrong in working for oneself, but the whole life cannot go only for oneself. And also it should not be that indirectly through multiplier effect, I am anyway benefiting so many. No, directly if I identify with a greater cause, there is much more potential also that manifests. And so Swami Chinmayanand used to say, a single ideal can transform a listless soul into a towering leader of men. So find a cause greater than yourself. What is that cause? And in that one loses oneself. Dedicate oneself to that greater cause, because one would feel a deep sense of satisfaction that I have not just earned money or fame or glory, but I have made a big difference consciously by identifying with a great and noble cause. That contribution to the society is what makes the person feel that there is something of significance that I have done. And hence here we had a movement called Transforming Indians to Transform India, about almost a decade since we launched that. This is a video we made about 9 years back. We just give some examples of people.
आज सब कुछ बदलेगा, आज अंबर मचलेगा, जब दिल में ज्योति की हो पुकारिए देश बढ़ेगा। आज तो सिद्ध करना है, चलो हमें कुछ करना है, जिसे रास्ता ना देखना हो बस उसको डरना है। उम्मीदें हौसले ये सिर्फ शब्द ना रह जाएंगे, जवा है हम दिमाग में दम, युवा को कोई रोक ना पाए। हमसे हो रोशनी, हम होंगे बल्ला, हमसे ही देश हो, मिलकर बढ़ेंगे। क्या देखते हो खुद में कभी झांक के देखो, जब बदलेगा हर एक घर बदलेगा देश भी। जानकर सोच मिलेगी, सोच से राह मिलेगी, उस राह पर हम सफर युवा को जान मिलेगी। करवटें इनको साथ झेले हम, सब अपना है ना थकना है, अपने बाजुओं में दम, हमसे हो रोशनी, हम होंगे बदलाव, हमसे ही देश हो, मिलकर बढ़ेंगे। उम्मीदें हौसले ये सब शब्द ना रह जाए, जमा है हम दिमाग में दम, युवा को कोई रोक ना पाए, हमसे हो रोशनी, हम होंगे बदलाव, हमसे ही देश हो, मिलकर बढ़ेंगे यार। हमसे हो रोशनी, हम होंगे बदलाव, हमसे ही देश हो, मिलकर बढ़ेंगे यार। हमसे हो रोशनी, हम होंगे बदलाव, हमसे ही देश हो, मिलकर बढ़ेंगे।
So those were examples of people who found a cause and how they transformed themselves, and the impact was on the whole country. So our success can be holistic, it can be empowering, it can make a big difference. And so when we find a greater cause, then we lose ourselves into it, and that is the true success. When we know how to let go of our small little individuality for a greater purpose, then there is great sense of fulfillment that one experiences, and that is true success. So when we become successful, or in the process of becoming successful, the cause is important. What is the cause for which I am serving? Even if we are doing anything in this field of accounting, etc., what is the cause that I am working for? Am I able to contribute to a system, make it more foolproof, make it more easier, more transparent for people? And as a result, are we able to ensure that we create a society which is more corruption free? It could be any such cause. I'm just giving some examples. But when we identify that and we work passionately for it, then there is that success which is making us contribute in a greater way. Now, coming to one more dimension of this, it is important in life to understand this fact that it is not enough to have more and more, it is important to rise higher and higher. In management, they call it as horizontal growth, vertical growth. So one is at the same level doing more and more of the same thing, other is rising up the ladder, so that's the vertical growth. But that applies in spiritual life also. At a certain level, we achieve certain success, etc. But after a point, our definitions and our understanding must change to become more subtler, more higher and higher. We should rise in our inner experience and evolution. And that is why it is important to ensure that along with material success, we balance our spiritual growth also. You know, today the strength training is very important. A lot of people, you know, they develop their core muscles, 6-pack abs, 8-packs and all that. through the strength training, because many people don't use those muscles, so there is fat deposition, etc. Same way, spiritual part we many times don't pay attention to, and we postpone, saying it is post-retirement plan, or we think it is some escape from daily life, or it will make me disinterested. A lot of wrong notions. So what the Gita tells us is success without stress is equal to skill plus strength. It's a mathematically wrong formula, S minus S is equal to S plus S, but it registers that, you know, that Swamiji did not know even that basic thing, but it registers. That's my objective. So when we become successful, if we become more happy, when we are able to develop this spiritual strength. Skills are different for each person, but inner strength is common. Mental strength is one aspect, and that's one need today, because a lot of mental health issues people are going through because mind is not strong. And spiritual knowledge, spiritual practices can help the mind to become much more stronger, apart from whatever the other psychological positive attitude and those trainings which one does. And hence, it is not enough to be good in life. It is very important to be spiritually good and anchored. See, Arjun was a successful person. He was a good person. He was a hardworking person. He was an efficient person. He was a value-based person. And yet, when he came in contact with the army of the enemy in the Battle of Mahabharata, when the chariot was placed in the center of the two armies, he collapsed. Why did he collapse? Because his emotions overwhelmed his thinking, and because he did not have enough spiritual strength to align his personality. The knowledge that Sri Krishna gave him infused that strength back into him. Krishna did not change anything outside. In management, they call that as outside-in approach versus inside-out approach. Krishna adopted the inside-out approach. He empowered him from within with the right spiritual vision. And once Arjun was anchored in it, he again picked up his bow and arrow, fought the war, won it, became successful. So this spiritual aspect is very important. We should not neglect that. Many decades ago, people used to test the EQ. Before that, only IQ, then came EQ, emotional quotient, then spiritual quotient people have attempted to understand and to apply. So that is a very important aspect of life, because that brings the resilience. You know, one of the aspects of spiritual quotient is resilience to face life, to face obstacles. What is your conviction in the goal? What can you sacrifice to achieve that goal? How value-based are you and anchored are you? Many of those aspects come under that spiritual strength. Gita goes more deeper into it, but at least the importance of this is understood, and one is attempting to infuse this spiritual knowledge in the workplace. So success is one aspect, but another aspect of this is also what next. The vertical growth that we are speaking about in inner experience, how will we achieve that? Because there will be goals at the material level, one can keep aspiring and keep achieving them, but success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And what is the meaning of fulfillment? Fulfillment means this. In the Gita 6th chapter, verse 22, he says that Yam labdva chaparam labham manyate nadhikam tataha. This is the gain, which is the greatest gain, gaining which nothing more remains to be gained. One experiences fulfillment. In any other goal, I achieve certain goal, I still have something to achieve. There is still some emptiness. Now, that's why they say that in the world of rat race, even if you win, you always remain a rat, afraid of a cat, hiding below a mat. So the sense of limitation, individuality, emptiness, that doesn't go even after I achieve great success. No doubt that success has some importance, but as we said earlier, till we don't lose our sense of individuality, we don't experience fulfillment. And that's where the spiritual aspect comes in, that we learn to turn our mind, body, intellect, and align them properly. That is called yoga. It will help us in our pursuit of material goals also. See, this is called Viyoga, disintegration, where there are vision, values, ambitions, goals, but the body, mind, intellect is not aligned. Physically, I'm here, mentally, I'm somewhere else, intellectually, I'm very anxious about my goals. So it's unaligned, it is misaligned. There is no alignment at all. So actions also become inefficient. I may get a certain result, but there is still emptiness inside. In contrast is this MBA. MBA means mind-body alignment in this context. If I align the body, mind, intellect, everything falls into place. I experience great fulfillment along with the result that I achieve. So when we learn to align the body, mind, intellect, that is called yoga, and that is very helpful even in the day-to-day life of ours, in achieving success, in experiencing any enjoyment of any pleasure also. Suppose I'm watching TV, eating some food, I'm not enjoying both. But if I'm just eating food or enjoying a certain ice cream or watching a nice movie or listening to some good music or being with nature, if I'm fully there, I enjoy it much more. Same way in relationships, I am able to give myself fully to a person when I'm listening, then that person also feels there is a connect. So this alignment is very important, and ultimately this alignment will help me to realize my true self. And that's why it begins by learning to do one thing at a time. This multitasking is a big myth. It is not. Today it is proved that there is nothing called multitasking. It is only switch tasking. If I am watching TV and eating food, my attention is switching between watching and eating. And in that there is a lot of dissipation of energy. So doing one thing at a time, very important. 3 hours of multitasking is equal to 1 hour of focused work. So time also is taken more, errors also increase, enjoyment is decreased, productivity, how many man hours are lost because of multitasking. Whereas earlier one thought that because of multitasking one is achieving a lot. In the Gita one says, Bahushaka yanantascha buddhayo avyavasayina. Their minds are dissipated, divided. Vyavasayatmika buddhihi ekeha kurunandana. So one must learn to do one thing at a time. Swami Chinmayananda used to say, bring your mind where your hands are. Be fully in the moment. So if I practice that in my daily life, doing one thing at a time, then I can apply this in spiritual path also. So the spiritual growth comes when I learn to align the body, mind, intellect. And in every culture, there is this one common practice. That's why I chose this. It is called japa. It is to repeat a mantra. It helps to bring the body, mind, intellect in one place. It invokes spiritual vibration, spiritual strength within us, surrender within us, devotion in us. So every culture has. Hinduism has so many mantras. Buddhism has Om Mani Padme Hum. Sikhism has Ik Onkar. Jainism has Navkar mantra. Christianity, they use Jesus or Hail Mary. Like that, every culture has. We must identify one such practice and every day spend some time. This is an important part of spiritual life and one's daily life, because this is the real, what we say, this is actually the reality that will help us to connect with what is permanent. Otherwise, everything is temporary, it just goes. Like Swamiji said earlier, it comes, it goes. Agamaha apaina. Success comes, it goes. What will stay with us is this peace of mind, alignment, all that. And that continues with us even beyond this lifetime. So that is very real. And as we do this, we can also meditate and realize the true self. That is the real success of life itself. To know who am I is the success of life. So apart from achieving success in goals in life, I must achieve success in the goal of life itself. And that's why he said here, when I sleep outside, I fall, but when I sleep inside, I rise. That is meditation. I rise from the human to the divine. So this much was about handling success. Now, there's a small video. You have to look at it and share what did you learn from this, or what is your observation about this. Once again, I'm going to play it. So what is your learning? Anyone? Either you can type in the chat, or you want to share, unmute and share. A straight path is a slow path. Wonderful. So one is with ups and downs and the other one is balanced. Okay. Ups and downs will be there, but if you are on course, you will come ahead. Ups and downs help reach faster. That's the point. So we expect that obstacle should not be there. I should reach straight to the success. But actually these ups and downs give more momentum and the ball returns faster because of these ups and downs. So no doubt both are moving forward, but our attitude towards the ups and downs is very important. The down is not taking us away from our success, it is actually leading us to that. And so when we say handling success and overcoming failure, that is a very important aspect, that we don't look at failure as a setback. We look at it as a part of the process to achieve the goal, to reach my success. It is one of the aspects, and it can actually increase my momentum if I have the right attitude. So a person who is a hero mindset is a person who is willing to go, takes risk, is ready to face obstacles and overcome them, is very determined, would not blame, complain. But a person who is a victim will keep blaming, complaining, is reluctant to try, doesn't want to face obstacles, and little setbacks one gives up very easily. So each one must ask oneself that what is my mindset? A person who is successful is a person who is able to have the hero's mindset and who doesn't keep on cribbing, criticizing, complaining. So watch out for this, the poor me moments, and change them to it's up to me. Avoid this pity party. Self-pity doesn't lead to anything. It only destroys our potential. And so we do this one simple exercise, draw a circle on the thumb and fill it up, and always ask oneself that am I a loser who will say you are responsible, that government, this job, this boss, that neighbor, this wife, that mother-in-law? Am I going to blame, or am I going to say it's up to me? And when I see the thumb, I see that there is a circle, meaning I have great potential, perfection is my true nature, I can achieve great things. So I have to take charge. So losers will be always like this. Heroes will always say this, it's up to me. They will not entertain pity, self-pity, self-condemnation. In the Gita, it is said, don't ever engage in self-condemnation. Lift yourself by yourself. Do not condemn yourself. Uddhared atmana atmanam na atmanam avasadayet. Don't condemn yourself ever. If these three are the choices that you have, which one will you choose? Given the situation that all the three are going to be dropped. One is a stone, one is a glass, another is a ball. Which one will you choose? Ball, stone, okay. Why a stone? Anyone. If one has to drop it to the ground, the stone is firm and strong, but the stone is going to remain there. And the glass is going to break. And the ball, if you drop, it will bounce back. Of course, it depends on what is your objective. There is no doubt in that. But in this context, suppose we say that life doesn't go as per our plan, and there are setbacks that we face, it's like we are dropped. Then what will we be? If we are like the stone, we may just fall and we may just remain there, or we may crash, get completely broken, or we are like the ball which bounces back. Yes, so it depends on why to choose. What is the objective, right? So the ball example is this. The beauty of the ball is what? Not only it bounces back, but the harder we hit, the higher it will rise. That quality is called resilience. In Gita, it is called dhriti. And in the 18th chapter, this is Satvik Dhriti, where one is able to keep the mind focused in spite of all obstacles. Dhrityayaya dharayate mana pranendriya kriyaha yogena avyabhicharinya dhriti partha satviki. That's a Satvik Dhriti where with single pointed commitment, one is still pursuing the goal and one is aligning the body, mind and intellect, overcoming various obstacles, and one achieves that goal. And the goal is also noble. So the harder one is hit, the higher one can rise if one has this quality of resilience. And so here it is, this one very inspiring video of Jack Ma.
I did not have a rich father. I tried 3 times for university. All failed. I applied for Harvard for 10 times. All failed. They don't even want to see me. For the last time, I went to the Teachers College, which was considered the 3rd or 4th class of my city. So I applied jobs for 30 times, got rejected. It was so difficult at that time. I was so frustrated because I taught in the university. My pay was $10 a month because I could not find a good job. In 1994, discussed that I'm going to do something called internet. And 23 of them against it. They said, this is a stupid idea. We have never heard about internet, and you know nothing about computer. And I never thought I was smart. Nobody believed that I could be successful because everybody said, well, this guy think differently, think crazily. You know, they think about something never work. I tried to borrow $3,000 from the banks. Took me 3 months, but I still cannot get it. We talked to over 30 or 40 venture capitalists. Everybody said, no, forget it. A lot of people said Alibaba is a terrible model. As I said, I believe it. I think this thing could be big if we keep on working. I never thought it would be that big like today. But I believe that something is waiting for me there. And I have to work hard to prove myself. That was the tough experience. So we gathered $50,000 from 18 founders. We started. For the first 3 years, we did not have even $1 revenue from our business. It was not easy.
You don't make any money. You've got extraordinary claims, and yet you make nothing. That's internet. Yes, but what's the point? Are you a millionaire? Now? No. Do you want to be? Well, I hope.
But why it keeps going ahead, going forward? Because I received lots of email of thanks from the customers. They say, this is such a great thing. We cannot pay you, but this thing helped us. If you keep on helping us, one day you will be successful, and I believe this. Little by little, we build up our business. Little by little, we build up our ecosystem of the infrastructure. And now, after 16 years, we have an Alibaba group, we have a Tmall group, we have a Taobao group, we have Alipay. And people said, you are so smart. How could you make a company like that? Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Jack Welch, Larry Page, Mark Zuckerberg. The difference between those people and other people, they are always optimistic for the future. They never complain. They always try to solve the problems of the others. When you're optimistic, it's always opportunity. People, same here today. Jack, where's the opportunity? I don't have a job. I don't have this, I don't have that. The best assets you have is that you are young. Don't complain. Let the other people complain. The opportunity always lies where people complain. Think about how you can make things different. And then when you think about this, start to do it. I saw a lot of people, young people, have fantastic ideas every evening. But in the morning, they go to the office same again. If you really want to be an entrepreneur, you have to do the things before the other people do. You have to wake up before the other people wake up. You have to be more brave than the others. When I was young, I went to Hangzhou West Lake. There's a hotel. Many foreign visitors visit there. And I went there every morning, 5 o'clock, to practice my English. The foreign visitors come, I practice my English. I don't know why at that time, but I found everything the foreign visitors told me are so different from the things my parents told me, my teacher told me, and the newspaper I read. So since then, I think everything use my own brain. Use your own brain to think. To everybody, to any person, tomorrow is new. Make the move, make the action. Whether investors believe it this or not, whether your friends believe it or not, whether your parents believe it or not, that's not important. You believe it, your team believe it, and work day and night on this. Make enough mistakes. You fall, you stand up. If you really want to work for yourself, think about the others, because only when the other people are successful, when the other people are happy, you'll be successful, you will be happy. Don't worry about the money. Money follow the people. People should follow the dreams. If you have a dream, just to go ahead.
So how beautiful and inspiring was that? How many times he failed, but he kept going. He did not allow that failure to overwhelm him. And so we have this beautiful lesson. Actually, it's chapter 3, my typing mistake it is. Chapter 3, verse 30. That the past has lessons and regret. I can waste my time in regret, or I can learn my lessons and move ahead. Gita tells us, drop the regret of the past, anxiety of the future, and tension in the present, and work fully with such a focused mind. Make a new beginning, and it will work. That enthusiasm has to be there, that I am not a failure. Even if I have failed, I am not a failure. Because fail is first attempt in learning. What did I learn? How much did I grow? What are the barriers that I had, inhibitions that I had, that I have overcome? So it's all right to fail, but it's not all right to remain there. That's why that example of the ball, one has to bounce back. That I may fail, and definitely everyone goes through that difficulty and the obstacles do come and one does fail. But I should remember, what is my conviction? Why do I want this goal? Arjun also went through a setback, but through knowledge he bounced back, and many obstacles on the way in the war also. But he fought, overcame all of them. So refuel the inspiration and enthusiasm and again start. The greatest failure is to stop trying. When I allow that failure to overwhelm me so much that I stop trying, then that becomes a very great failure. And that's why I should drop that fear. A fear of mistakes will lead to another mistake. So the Gita says, Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha, one who has given up fear. Because one has given up insistence and attachment, and one is focused on the goal. So don't be scared to make mistakes, to take risk. because that fear will completely make us very, very pessimistic, dull, depressed, and we will land up in self-pity and self-condemnation. So here is one small exercise. You have to tell me, what do you see here? Quickly. Two wrong answers. Okay. Only two? Are there more? Counting methods. Very good. Maths equation, 8 correct, 2 wrong. Excellent, Tejas Shah. That's the point. These are equations. When we observe, that's called holistic observation, where we observe both. 8 are correct and 2 are wrong. Sometimes it happens that our focus goes only on the 2 wrong and we don't acknowledge the 8 which are right. One of the reasons why we become sad is that we focus more on our failures and our negativities. But what is important is to also acknowledge our strengths. So we always say in spiritual life, strengthen your strength, weaken the weakness. Don't do the opposite. We weaken our strengths and strengthen our weakness. So when failures come, we should not allow them to make us feel that I am a failure. How will that happen? One is the conviction of my goal that I have. Second is I should also focus on my strengths, that how much more are my strengths. Maybe somewhere I went wrong, so let me learn my lessons, correct myself, but let me not allow that failure to overwhelm me completely. And so this balanced view of ourselves is very important. Otherwise, failure can make us feel that I am a failure. See, many times that happens because that's a conditioning from childhood, that we should not make any mistakes, because if we make mistakes, we are failure, we are flop, we are dull, and people brand us. Now that pressure we carry in our head. All of us will make mistakes. There's nothing wrong in making a mistake. So many people don't manifest their potential because they are scared of making a mistake, or they're scared of failure, they're scared of obstacles. And hence in the Gita, it is said that drop this fear. Push yourself to the great limits. See the strengths that you have and bounce back every time there is a failure that happens. The beautiful example for that Swami Chindananji is to give is like Mother Ganga. So higher the goal, greater will be the obstacles which come. One has to be like Mother Ganga. Why is he giving the example of Mother Ganga? Let's see here.
Dhananjaya, hey Dhananjaya. Dhananjaya is one of the titles given to Arjuna. Hey Dhananjaya, Yogastha Kuru Karmani. Do all your functions, all your performances, all your actions centered in your ideal. Be it God or an ideal in the world outside. Hold on to it and act in the world outside. Siddhya siddhyoho samo bhutva. And once that you have entered into the field of action, don't you ever get fluttered by success or failure, siddhi or asiddhi. You act on, unperturbed by the various obstacles that might arise in your path. When Mother Ganges starts from the peaks of the Himalayas, she has already decided to go and reach Bay of Bengal. She is flowing down millions of gallons of water per minute. Do you think that her path is red carpeted. This way, please, this way. No. Every square inch there are obstructions. Small pebbles on the roadside, on the bed of the river, gives a beautiful melody, a songful sound from the water rumbling through it. When she meets a little obstacle, she gracefully jumps over it. If that obstacle is a little higher and she cannot jump over it, she doesn't just stop there and despair, saying that, what can I do? She collects her white sari and goes around it, foam and lather around. Supposing she meets a range of mountains, she can't jump over it, she can't go around it, she doesn't, she giggles, takes it a joke, and rubbing her shoulder at the foot of the mountain, she goes, and she knows that the mountain cannot be for eternal time. It may be 1 mile or 2 miles, and where the mountain has ended, she turns around the mountain and again proceeds in the same direction that she had decided for the peak of the Himalayas. Ultimately, she pours herself into the Bay of Bengal and reaches all the 7 oceans of the world. Think. Be like Mother Ganges. You have a goal, no doubt. And the higher the goal, greater you must expect obstacles en route. But no obstacle should upset you. Meet them diligently. Where it can be jumped over, jump over. If you cannot, go around it. If you not, wait, proceed, and when the obstacle is ended, turn again and continue your direction. That is the way to achieve things. Achieving great things in life cannot happen by eating and sleeping. And then say that, I am an unlucky man, nothing is happening, what can I do, Swamiji? Bad times have come, the stars are not all right, the local people are not supporting. It's all stupid excuses. A real man of action, he pursues his path and reaches his destined goal or determined goal.
Determined goal by himself. So finally, this is a simple formula that I always give. That how do I handle success and overcome failure? This is the formula. T20. Every day exercise minimum 20 minutes, meditate minimum 20 minutes, and study some spiritual literature, self-help books, and empower the intellect for 20 minutes. This will keep us aligned in our body, mind, intellect. We will be able to handle success beautifully, grow higher and higher, as well as overcome any failures that also come on the way, and achieve the fulfillment of life itself. So this is where I'm going to stop. And if you have any questions, you want to ask anything, share anything, you are welcome.
I think there are no questions from you. No, there is one there.
To control the urge to compare, many times it's natural to compare, but how to not that be considered another failure, but to use it as a motivation. Okay. So the urge to compare comes with
I am not feeling that self-confidence within myself, and I also feel that I need something from outside. It may be anything else. It may be status, wealth, possessions, car, clothes, anything. That I feel those things, if I have, they will make me more happy, or if anybody else in my family has, it will make them more happy. So that comparison, when we do, that is arising out of the feeling of somewhere there is some inadequacy, or I am feeling that I am not complete by myself. As I am, I have not accepted myself. And then it creates insecurity. So looking at somebody, feeling inspired, trying to achieve certain goals, that is not a problem. But when the comparison is that only when I get that, then I will be more worthy, then that is a challenge. That is something that has to be overcome. And that one can overcome when we learn to focus more on what are already our blessings, what already we have achieved. And also understand this, that comparisons should not be done for the sake of self-judgment or measuring one's self-worth. If at all I'm comparing, let me be to admire somebody so that those ideals inspire me, then I can grow. Not for feeling that I am lesser and they are greater because they have something, and because I don't have something, I am lesser. That one can avoid by being more anchored in oneself. What type of meditation is required for concentration? So the method of concentration is where we learn to focus on one thought or a stream of thoughts in one direction to the exclusion of everything else, which means a support I have to use. So I can use a mantra as a support. I can use the breath as a support. I can visualize a form, or I can focus on what they do. Sometimes visualize chakras. There are some people who also focus on the tip of a candle. These are all different support systems that I am training my mind to focus its attention on any one and exclude everything else. It is not a mechanical process actually. If I have love, then concentration will happen automatically. Like see, when we have love for a game, let us say I love cricket, then does anybody have to tell me that, sit erect, focus your mind, look at the television alone, don't allow anything to distract you, just pay attention to what is happening on the screen? Nothing, nobody has to tell anything. I am so focused because I love it. So whatever the work I am doing, if I love, my focus will be there. And same way, whatever support I have chosen, it may be a form, it may be the breath, it may be my mantra, whatever it is, I must invoke devotion and love in my heart. Then automatically it will focus. And as we said earlier, learn to do one thing at a time. If every day if the whole day I'm doing a lot of multitasking, then in meditation also mind will do multitasking, because I have only one mind. So I will do Om Namah Shivaya, and one track of the mind, other track will say Shiv Sagar, Pampaji, Faluda, this, that, it just goes. Because I'm training the mind to do more than one thing at a time. How it will not do that in meditation? It's the same mind. So these two things, choose a focus which will invoke more love, and second, do one thing at a time. Train the mind through the day also. How can you explain failure or success to young children, especially in this education system which is marks oriented? Yes, that's a very important part. What we have to explain to the children is marks are only one part of the evaluation process. Like even today, there is what they call multiple intelligence. Howard Gardner came up with that multiple intelligence. There's spatial intelligence, there's musical intelligence, what is that? Kinesthetic intelligence. Like there are multiple intelligences. So somebody may not be good in a certain type of intelligence, but they may be brilliant in some others. So success lies in manifesting one's potential. That is one simple thing. Identify what you are made for. Learn to focus on that. Bring out your talent and your potential. Do not judge yourself because of the marks. Some of the greatest achievers in the world have been written off by the education system. Albert Einstein, he was said he is not good for anything. He failed in the 4th class. Walt Disney, he was told he lacks creativity and imagination. Can you believe? He lacks creativity and imagination. The guy went on to win 22 Academy Awards, and he was told he lacks creativity and imagination. So we have to teach the children that success lies in manifesting your potential. What are you good at? And there is no failure in life actually. There is only learning in life. That's it. What happens when we fall down? As a child, when your child is learning, when the child falls down, what does the child do? We teach the child, get up and walk. That's all. We don't say you are a failure, you fell down, what a dumb fellow you are, you don't know. We don't do any of that. If we get a toothache, what do? Go to a doctor, get it cured. That's it. Do we sit and condemn ourselves that what a dumb fellow I am, I got a toothache, nobody else gets it, I only had to get it. No, we don't do any self-condemnation. But when we don't achieve our goal, suddenly there is so much of self-condemnation because we have equated our self-esteem with the marks. And as a parent also, I should be very clear that real success is in manifesting potential. And today's world, look at the career options that are available. Think about that. 10, 15 years ago, if anybody says, I am a content creator or I am a YouTuber, people will say, what a mad fellow you are. And today they are earning in lakhs. Because that's the talent. And they are able to identify, they are able to bring it out. So we have to focus on that. And education is actually supposed to do that. If that is not doing it, we as parents better start doing it. What is the unique talent of my child? I'll just say one more point that, very, my parents, they were very clear about this fact. So what they used to do is they used to send me for various things to explore. So every vacation, my cousins and all of them, they would spend time, go somewhere, visit some place, which is good. But my father would always send me to some course. So karate and, cricket and volleyball and then dance and music and instruments and horse riding and chess and how many things. He made me explore. And finally, I became a sannyasi. Because I found that my joy is in the spiritual knowledge. And I used to give talks on the Gita to my own family members when I was studying in the first year in my college, just as my sadhana. Because in that I found, and I said, this is what I want to do. And I went to join Vedanta course. I'm very happy today. Because the important point is either the child should know or the parent should know what the child is made for, or make the child explore and find. One will find one's belonging. That's real success.
Swamiji, one attendee has asked a question. I just posted it there in the panel.
Oh, okay. How to control so many thoughts at night during sleep time? If any problem persists that keep lingering in the mind and disturb the entire night from calm sleep. See, one aspect is this.
Am I audible? Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Swamiji.
Okay. So, see, there is a problem that my mind is looking for a solution. So I am not able to sleep. That's a natural tendency that can happen. So one is I should trust my subconscious mind. Because subconscious mind is much more powerful than conscious mind. So go to sleep thinking that my subconscious mind will find a solution for it. Right now I need to sleep so that I go into subconscious mind. That is one attitude. Second attitude is you have to tell yourself that a problem solution can be found only when the mind is fresh and energetic. If the mind is, tired, exhausted, you can't find. So I need to learn to cut off. So this is the time to sleep. Let me just focus on sleeping and I will find a solution. Have faith in yourself that I will find solution to the problem. By worrying anyway, nothing is going to happen. If I'm going to sleep, I'm going to not sleep whole night, I'm not going to find a solution. I'm only going to deplete my energy. Next day morning, I'm going to be more exhausted. So in the interest of finding the solution, let me go to sleep and my subconscious will find the solution. And it will be, so these two things one can do. And third thing one can definitely do is take up a book which is very difficult to read and understand, and read. In 2 minutes, you'll fall asleep. 100%. That's what I have sometimes. Start reading and gone, finished. One doesn't recognize also how much time it took. One page one is not able to finish. Take such a difficult book which you can't just understand.
So Nishtha has sent me a message saying that we should read our Western India Regional Council's journal. It's very interesting.
Some people may find it very engaging, so they don't get sleep because they find it more interesting also.
Oh, and they are the panelists for all our professional webinars.
Okay. Fourth point, if you want to apply Yoga Nidra or learn a relaxation technique, consciously learn a relaxation technique, PMR or Yoga Nidra are same. PMR means progressive muscle relaxation. Or Yoga Nidra also means same. Each part of the body relax consciously. Then you will require less sleep also. If you actually consciously relax the body and go to sleep, much lesser sleep is required.
That's it. There are no more questions, Swamiji.
All right. Thank you, everyone. It was nice to.
It's for us to express our Kritagnyata, Swamiji, that you accepted immediately as I suggested. You accepted. The chamber is actually enriched by your really inspiring talk, and most importantly, what Gurudev said in between really touched our hearts. So as you said rightly, aligning the body, mind and intellect, and with Dhriti, with no attachment to either success or failure, move ahead. Growth is the only path. And that is exactly what we have learned from here, Swamiji. And extremely thankful to you for your valuable time and guidance to all of us. On behalf of Chamber, really once again express our gratitude. And to all the panelists and the attendees, thank you very much for being a part of this and for benefiting from this wisdom, which is centuries old.
This one slide.
Sorry, Swamiji, we couldn't hear. Yeah.
I'm just ending with this one slide that our main website is chinmamishan.com. In Mumbai, so our website is chinmamishanmumbai.com. A lot of programs we do. Online also they happen, offline also. Right now offline are suspended, but we will go. You can know more about it from this chinmamishanmumbai.com, and you can also follow Chinmamishan Mumbai on Facebook and Instagram, etc. A lot of programs happen for children, youngsters, parents, for every age group. And you can also follow me on my handle at Chinmay Shivam on YouTube channel. So all these social media are there for both Chinmamishan Mumbai and for my ID on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, etc. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.